This administration today, here and now, declares unconditional war on poverty in America.
A war against poverty was the war that Johnson really wanted to fight. In his first State of the Union address, he reached back to the populism of his father and grandfather. He took a Kennedy anti-poverty proposal and made it his own.
It will not be a short or easy struggle, but we shall not rest until that war is won. The richest nation on earth can afford to win it. We cannot afford to lose it.
When Lyndon Johnson became president, 35 million Americans were living below the poverty line in the most affluent country in the world.
And I said, but they don't vote. They don't have any organized lobbies. How in the world are you going to get any substantial legislation on poverty? Jack Kennedy couldn't. How are you going to do it? He leaned back and he said, and these words are engraved on my memory. He said, I don't know whether I'll pass a single law or get a single dollar appropriated, but before I'm through, no community in America is going to be able to ignore the poverty in its midst.
Johnson now turned to the director of the Peace Corps, Sergeant Shriver.
One Saturday morning, he called me up and said that his radio show, which he had every Saturday, was going to go on in a couple of hours, and he wanted to announce on that show that I was going to be the new head of the war against poverty, or the head of the new war against poverty. And I said, well, Mr. President, really, you know, I haven't had a chance to speak to my wife. I haven't had a chance to talk to any people in my office. I don't know what they'll think about it in the Peace Corps. Couldn't you just postpone that? Frankly, I would rather talk to you about it next week. He said, well, now, Sergeant, he said, no, the truth is we've got to get on with that war against poverty. So please talk to Eunice now. Just talk to her now, and I'll call you back. So I put the phone down. I couldn't believe my ears. And next thing you know, the phone rang again. There was the president on it. He said, well, what have you decided? Now, I decided. I said, well, Mr. President, it would really be much better for me and my family if we could just talk about this next Monday or Tuesday and see what, I have a better idea of what you want me to do. And I'm afraid if you announce that I'm the head of the war of poverty, people ask me what I'm going to do about it, and I don't know. And that will be a source of embarrassment to me and maybe not so good for you. He said, well, Sarge, he said, you know, I have this radio program. It's going on about an hour. Said, let me call you back. So he called me back about 20 minutes later, and in a very low voice, confidential sounding voice, he said, now listen, he said, I'm going to announce you, and I can't speak about it loud because I have the whole cabinet here with me. But you just have to understand, Sergeant, this is your president speaking, and I'm going to announce you as the head of the war against poverty. Boom.
So help me God.
I turned to my wife and I said, looks as if I'm going to be the new head of the war against poverty.
President Johnson's program on poverty is distinguished in at least 4 ways. First of all, it is
In 6 short weeks, Johnson had come up with his package, but he would let Shriver worry about the details.
He didn't have to tell me what he desired. I knew what he desired. He wanted to get going big, and he wanted to get going with success. He didn't have to tell me that.
Johnson crisscrossed the country, appealing for support for his anti-poverty legislation. Poverty in America had been invisible. Johnson put it on the front pages.
Our first objective is to free 30 million Americans from the prison of poverty. Can you help us free these Americans? And if you can, let me hear your voices.
For Johnson, it was a return to his political past. The old battle cries of the New Deal coming alive again.
He was the last soldier in the New Deal war. It was like the final expression of everything which had gone on in the 30s and 40s. Government as mother, father, smothering Lyndon Johnson, big arms around you. I love you. I want you to do better.
Do something we can be proud of. Help the weak and the meek and lift them up and help them train and give them an education where they can make their own way instead of having to live off the bounty of our generosity.
Most people don't actively care about people they don't know, people who are suffering. It's hard for us to remember those people. Lyndon never really forgot them, I think. I really think he never did.
His vision was of helping the disadvantaged to help themselves. His hope was that you give them education, you give them opportunity, you give them the chance to come into the mainstream of American middle-class economic life. And that's as thoroughly American as apple pie.
We have a right to expect a job, to provide food for our families, a roof over their head, clothes for their body. And with your help and with God's help, we will have it in America. Thank you.
Johnson would make war on poverty, and there would be no casualties. Everyone would be a winner, even big business.
He would tell business people, listen, we've got a very abundant country. We've got the resources to help these people who are right at the bottom. For God's sakes, don't you understand that your interest, in effect he was arguing, your interest as a business leader is the welfare state because you keep everything stable? It must have been a very appealing argument to a corporate executive who was not to the right of Attila the Hun, that in a civilized country with such abundance as we have, astounding abundance compared to the rest of the world, you can afford to be liberal with the poor.
We were a generation of people who had been in World War II. So when a war against poverty was launched, it was typical of all of us at that time to think of this war, the war against poverty, in terms just like the war against Hitler. We were accustomed to thinking in terms of the United States being able to do big things. America bestrode the world like a colossus. There was nothing in the world equal to the United States of America.
The war on poverty was just part of Johnson's program for the country. Few anticipated that this coarse and abrasive Texan would propose a series of laws to enrich daily life for all Americans. He called his vision the Great Society.
The Great Society is a place where every child can find knowledge to enrich his mind and to enlarge his talent. It is a place where leisure is a welcome chance to build and reflect, not a feared cause of boredom and restlessness. It is a place where the city of man serves not only the needs of the body and the demands of commerce, but the desire for beauty and the hunger for community.
It was an inflated rhetoric,
It is a place where man can renew
the
contact.
kind American leaders seldom use anymore.
It is a place which honors creation for its own sake.
As one aide described it, what he meant was a full stomach, yes, but a fuller life, too.
It is a place where men are more concerned with the quality of their gold than the quantity of their goods.
His aspirations were enormous. He wanted to do something for everyone. He wanted to be the best father Americans ever had.
I, Lyndon Baines Johnson, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of the Presidency of the United States.
And will, to the best of your ability.
It was an unprecedented victory. The presidency by more votes than any man ever before. The Congress by an overwhelming majority. And with political power, an opportunity to do great things. No longer a scorned and frustrated vice president. No longer an accidental president. Lyndon Johnson was now one of the most popular presidents of the century. On the night of his inaugural gala, Johnson told his guests, "Don't stay up late. We're on our way to the Great Society." He had been scorned as an unscrupulous politician, a vulgar wheeler-dealer, driven by ambition and a lust for power. But on January 20th, 1965, the night of his inaugural gala, Lyndon Johnson was a happy man. Overwhelmingly elected, he promised to wipe out poverty and segregation, protect the old, and educate the young. That was his dream. Few presidents would ever know more triumph.
Civil rights.